is K2 News at 11 on your side.
They have been peaceful, though.
I did get a little bit of pepper spray yesterday when I was back behind the building on Bancroft.
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us at 11. I'm Barry Mangold. Tonight, protests continue outside the ICE facility in South Portland. This comes as a federal judge will soon hear arguments over whether to allow or block the deployment of 200 National Guard troops to Portland. The state arguing the military is barred from interfering with civilian law enforcement. Meanwhile, President Trump's administration says the deployment is intended to protect ICE agents and federal property. Thank you again for joining us at 11. We're going to get straight to our reporter who is live in the field for us tonight, Victor Park, joining us from the facility in South Portland. So, Victor, what are you hearing from residents there tonight?
Barry, we have been here for 8 hours now, and initially it was peaceful, but within the last 30 minutes, things have escalated. In fact, take a look. You can see those about 24 protesters outside of the ICE facility. Earlier, there was a heated confrontation between them and the ICE agents when those agents came out to make room for a car to enter. At some point, we saw federal agents shooting pepper balls and throwing pepper spray at those protesters. Eventually, those agents retreating back into the facility. All this to say that people who live across the street have mixed reaction about what is going on, and now they are talking to us. You'll hear from them right now. For the third day, protesters gathered outside the ICE facility in South Portland, angry with President Trump's decision to call in troops to protect the building. People at this apartment complex have had a front row view.
It's been noisy with the helicopters.
When you have 100 people out here, my girlfriend here is afraid to come outside.
This has been the sight and sound around the Portland ICE facility. The Oregon National Guard says troops could be stationed at the facility as early as Thursday. Those living here are split.
Thankfully, Trump's sending in the National Guard. Absolutely want that. Yeah, they can't get here soon enough.
I mean, if it wasn't for protesters like that during the civil rights movement, I wouldn't have the life I have today.
Portland Police Chief Bob Day says police took action Sunday night when a fight broke out between opposing groups.
We are down there, we are paying attention, we are engaged.
A federal judge ordered a hearing on the request for a temporary restraining order on Friday. It's part of a lawsuit filed by the state of Oregon and the city of Portland to stop the deployment, which cites California's case against the Trump administration over use of the Guard. A judge ruled against the administration in that case. The Trump administration argues that this case is different and much more limited in scope, but others like LaShonda Shavers believe sending troops will only make matters worse.
So I'm pissed that this is about to happen because it's ridiculous. If the president actually had been out here and see what's really going on, I think maybe he would change his mind or change what he's saying.
All right, in the meantime, there is a lot of uncertainty here as to what will happen next. But in the meantime, we also saw some Portland police officers, part of their liaison team, standing by earlier tonight. Now they are nowhere to be seen. In the meantime, though, a lot of chanting behind me. We're live here in South Portland. I'm Victor Park, K2 News.
All right, Victor, thank you for that look. And now we want to turn to a story that's new at 11 tonight. K2 has received the text exchanges between one of President Trump's assistants and Oregon Governor Tina Kotek. This came after a public records request today. The messages show a tense back and forth between the governor and president. On Sunday morning, when we found out the White House was deploying the 200 National Guard troops, Trump told Kotek, quote, "The ICE facility in Portland was attacked again Saturday night. In fact, it and other federal buildings are being attacked on a nightly basis. We can't have this. Thank you for your attention on this matter." You'll see that's in the gray bubble. Then later, Kotek responded saying this to Trump: "I just received your notice to mobilize the Oregon National Guard outside of my control. I believe this is unlawful and unwarranted. You broke your promise to speak with me before taking further action against Portland. I will be in touch." Trump then responding to that, saying, "I notified you to get things in order, and you didn't. They attacked our ICE patriots last night and at other times. If you get your state in order, we don't come in, but everyone knows that Portland has been an unmitigated disaster for years. I won't let that happen in America. You can read that full text exchange between Trump and Kotek on KATU.com right now. And now we want to turn to the latest on that legal challenge by Oregon and Portland in a joint lawsuit. Victor mentioned it. That lawsuit challenging the deployment of the 200 National Guard troops to the city's ICE facility. And today the judge told federal authorities, or federal attorneys rather, that they have to respond in writing by noon on Thursday. And then both sides will argue in court Friday morning. Attorneys for Oregon and Portland asked the judge to schedule this hearing ASAP. Meanwhile, one attorney from the U.S. Department of Justice downplayed the deployment. One of the attorneys representing President Trump and other federal officials, named Christopher Edelman, told the judge in today's phone call that the situation is not an emergency. He also called the deployment a very small federalization that is very limited in nature. Edelman also said that this deployment in Oregon is different from Trump's deployment of troops to Los Angeles, which was deemed illegal by a judge there earlier this month. We'll be following that hearing on Friday, and we'll keep you posted. And we are also hearing from U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi in a memo issued today. Bondi said that ICE officers have seen more than 1,000% increase in attacks. Portland has had one protest outside the ICE facility that was deemed a riot by local police. That happened on the evening of June 14th. There have been plenty of other clashes between protesters and federal law enforcement outside the facility that have resulted in several arrests. Officers with those agencies are now being instructed by Bondi to, quote, suppress all unlawful rioting and arrest every person suspected of threatening or assaulting a federal law enforcement officer or interfering with federal law enforcement operations. And Bondi also says she is directing the U.S. Attorney's Office in Oregon to charge those suspects who are arrested with the highest provable offenses under the law. She says the aim is to end political violence against ICE. Other news here on this front, a coalition of Oregon mayors uniting against increased federal presence. Today, 17 mayors denouncing the deployment of federal forces to Portland. That joint statement demanding that federal law enforcement officers adhere to the same standards of local law enforcement officers. Specifically, the letter says that federal troops need to follow local rules of officer self-identification, chemical munitions restrictions, body-worn camera policies, as well as use of force policies. The coalition of mayors says it is also going to be working together to research federal immigration activity so they can address the issue together.
We will continue to push for a future where safety is not built on force, but on fairness, dignity, and trust.
The Portland region stands united to command its own destiny, and we do it bound by an honor to the law and the basic freedoms that give each one of us a shared dignity and justice.
When I look around the room today, I know we are more together than we have ever been.
We did also reach out to some cities in our area that did not sign on to that joint statement, including Troutdale and Woodburn. They say they did not know about it in time, and Woodburn says they would support it. KATU is working to hear from the White House, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and local Republicans about all this. We have received statements and social media posts from many folks who support the president's deployment of National Guard troops. We shared those with you over the weekend, and we've also heard from Oregonians who welcome the National Guard. Here is the federal government's reasoning on that. In a June 7th memo, the White House said violent protests were threatening agents who were just trying to do their job. This came amid protests in L.A. The memo also cited a need to protect federal property. The Portland memo mentions original directive and says the Guard will be here to protect property where protests are occurring or are likely to occur. And KATU News is on your side, closely tracking the protest and the entire situation outside the ICE facility, as well as the deployment of troops and the legal battle over it. When we're not on the air, get the very latest on the KATU News app.